We made it. Yeah. So, what are we here to talk about? AI will take your job. Obviously, I'm trolling you. This talk is not about AI. It's basically ramblings of some dude and my thoughts on the cybersecurity market as a hiring manager and as a technical guy. I'll be focusing on what my experience is, which are technical roles, so penetration testing, vulnerability research, reverse engineering, etc. But I think it kind of applies to most of the cybersecurity job market. And we'll start our not AI talk by talking about AI. But first, so that you know who is this guy, I'm the founder and director of research of a small cybersecurity consultancy based in the UK. We do penetration testing, a bit of everything, red teaming, and vulnerability research and reverse engineering. I like hacking stuff. We all do, right? From really low-level stuff, like especially basebands and RTOS, up to Java code, Java enterprise applications. I like to pretend that I'm a YouTuber with my colleague Radek Domansky. We won Pwn Tokyo 2020, and we started making some videos. We don't have a lot of stuff there, but it is, crap. But it is, I think the videos are fun, check them out. And I usually also teach hacking training at several conferences, baseband training for baseband exploitation for advanced students, and hunting 0 days in embedded devices for beginner to intermediate. And that's basically it. Now, about AI. When I started thinking about this talk and when I was invited by the B-Sides team, I think it was early this year, and a lot of people still doubted AI. And in just a few months, everything has changed. So I think now there's a lot more believers in AI. But I still see a lot of people resisting to it for several reasons. One of them, it doesn't help, is all the AI guys and companies, they kind of really hype it up, right? So it's either, it's going to make our world a land of milk and honey, or Terminator's going to crush our skulls with miniguns, right? There's nothing in between. The reality about AI is, make me a Python script that reads a file. And while of course I made this to take a screenshot for this presentation, I have done this, so I'm that lame. AI is a tool, basically, right? So that's really what it is. My personal belief is that AI will really change the way we work, change our world, so to speak, just like the internet did. And of course, it is my opinion. I have no proof of this, right? But I see a lot of parallels with the internet. So if you are born in the 80s, or older, you've probably seen the internet evolve from basically nothing to what it is now. And if you told me, a teenager in the 90s who was, playing computer games and messing around with computers, that one day I would work remotely, from one country to the other country, and love my job and work completely in a computer, I wouldn't believe you. A lot of you, probably your moms are saying, don't spend so much time at the computer, you will never get a job, etc., etc. Well, look at me now, Mom. So yeah, and I see a lot of parallels with AI, right? So we got to cut through the hype, right, and understand AI is a tool. The change will be gradual. We won't see it coming, right? And again, just like the internet, stock market right now is crazy about AI. They'll definitely blow up and be a recession. But this is normal, there's a cycle of hype and then it stabilizes, but the technology keeps progressing. And the thing is, a lot of people that I know, this is when I realized, is that a lot of my friends who are not cybersecurity experts, they're not in IT, this topic came up when we were together, and I realized that almost all of them use ChatGPT or a variation of that every single day, more than us. And this is really what got me thinking, you know. There's a lot of people who don't use it for various reasons, you know. It's not a tool that replaces everything. For example, it's useful for what I showed, you know, make me a script Python that does things, but it still doesn't replace Google. It eventually will. And of course, this brings the question, which is, I don't know, I can't remember when ChatGPT appeared, maybe what, 2-3 years ago? Came out of nowhere, and really, if you started using it, really blew your mind back then, and still kind of does, more and more. So if this came out of nowhere, you know, can parts of your job also be automated? You know, what parts of your job can be automated? If you know, and probably there are parts of your job that can be automated, they will be automated by AI, you know? You have these coding tools that if you have used them, they're pretty good, you know, and they'll keep improving rapidly. And, you know, a specific AI tool may not be great at the moment, but as we've seen, change is very rapid, right? And if you've seen a recent post by Project Zero, which is from nap time to big sleep, using LLMs to find vulnerabilities in real-world code. So there have been, and there are some companies out there that claim they use AI to find vulnerabilities. This is the first public example that really shows finding a 0-day. Of course, there's a lot of caveats here, right? So they use the previous vulnerability as a training model. You know, they fine-tuned the model. It was not like, oh, here's the code finding a vulnerability, right? It's a tool. You need to learn how to use it. But I recommend you have a look at this. It was a real-world vulnerability found by a tuned LLM. Yeah, so consequences of this, jobs will change, some of them dramatically. Again, if you were around in the 90s, travel agents is kind of a weird comparison. So back in the 90s, there were travel agents everywhere. Then they disappeared for like 15 years, and now for some reason they're back. I don't know. I walk around in my city, and I see a lot of travel agents. I guess, you know, they found some niche. But it is a bad example and a good example at the same time, because it shows how the internet basically kills an industry, but also how the industry can adapt and survive, right? And we got, you know, no one sends letters these days. You know, paper encyclopedias don't exist. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that the internet killed a lot of stuff. AI will also kill a lot of stuff, but also bring new jobs, right? And it will definitely affect our work, right? It will probably replace or automate, I'm not going to say a lot, but a few jobs in cybersecurity. And maybe it will make it harder for noobs to join our industry. Can these tools become advanced enough to replace noobs? When I mean noobs, I mean newcomers. I don't mean an insult to anyone. Okay, everyone's a noob. I'm a noob. But, well, not really. I mean, we will find ways to adapt. And at this point, let's assume that I made my case and you agree that AI will, you know, eventually evolve, change the way we work. You know, and I will shift now to the second. So I think I made my case. I will shift now to the second part of the talk, which is basically, given my experience in the field, I've made a lot of mistakes. You know, a lot of mistakes in the past, and I've seen people do a lot of mistakes. And I think when I see people do these mistakes, it kind of makes them less valuable as workers. You know, it can affect your job, it can affect you personally. You know, so I'm going to try and repeat these mistakes so that you learn from them, so that we all learn from them, which will make us more resilient to change and more resilient to impacts such as, you know, AI coming, right? So what we have here is, in terms, there's a lot of talk about a cybersecurity skills gap, and you see a lot of articles like this, which is, you know, there's a shortage of cybersecurity professionals in every country. You need to train more people, and it is kind of true. But my reality as a hiring manager when I post a role is that basically a ton of people apply. So this was a post I made on LinkedIn, which, it's for a very specific job role, right? I was looking for a junior vulnerability researcher. And it had two simple requirements, which is you must have published like a write-up of a vulnerability, have a CTF record public or some CVE, published vulnerabilities, etc. And you must be living in Europe. Now, I didn't say these were simple requirements, right? They were specific. There's no need for university degree or even work experience. And the reality is that I was really flooded with kind of a lot of job applications, and 99% of them don't fit the requirements. And this is fine, people gotta take their shot, right? Everyone starts, this is an awesome job, maybe I can do it. But what was funny was to have a lot of these kind of responses, which is, some people were saying, oh, CVE are not a gauge of skill, Oh, you're looking for unicorns, someone junior who has found vulnerabilities, etc. Yeah, this is not a junior role. This is like for a senior cybersecurity researcher. And look, guys, if I understand, of course, I don't want to point fingers at anyone, so I covered up the names, but these are people, some of them are developers, others do. So basically, they're not security researchers or anywhere near technical cybersecurity, so to speak. So they don't really know what they're talking about. This is what it shows, having a published CTF write-up does not make you a senior security researcher. And this is unfortunately something that I see more and more often, especially in public, boards like LinkedIn or whatever you want to call it. And this is basically copium, which is, I don't have these skills, no one has these skills, you will never find anyone for this job, right? And I don't need to tell you why this is bad. It makes you look bad to say this in public. It's fine to think that way, okay? But, it makes you look bad in public. And, it is the wrong mindset. This is the wrong mindset, If you want this job, this is not the mindset you need to have. The reality is we got 5 good candidates, we hired 1. And if you're looking for a job like this, the things that I asked are things that you can do at home, right? I'm not asking for 5 years of experience. I'm not asking you, again, no university degree. These are things that you can do on your own time at home. And people don't realize this, right? And okay, there's a lot of people who say, yeah, I don't want to spend my free time doing that. I want to spend my time, playing video games or doing sports or whatever. That's fine. That's fine, but you are competing in a job market where other people are keen to do this, right? So just bear that in mind, So before you rent, keep that in mind, okay? And this kind of shows that there is not a shortage of cybersecurity professionals, but a shortage of skilled and willing cybersecurity professionals, right? Fortunately, for a lot of technical jobs, you don't need formal training. You can learn on your own. But there's going to be a lot of people competing for the same role. So you got to show your difference, right? You got to put in the time to show your difference. And then brings us to the 10 commandments of cybersecurity. And I want to say, this is a joke, okay? I am Christian too. I'm not insulting your religion, all right? And I don't consider myself the Moses of cybersecurity, okay? I need to say this because people take everything seriously these days. And it takes us to our first commandment, which is don't drink copium, Don't cry over how things are, Reality is reality. You need to adapt to it, especially as a junior that is growing up, right? As a senior, you're comfy, sitting, in your chair, but as a junior, you got to adapt. You got to put in the hours. You got to put in the work. And by the way, this is normal in any field, not IT or cybersecurity, right? You're junior, you got to put in the work. Just, try to enjoy your work. And again, it's fine to have these thoughts in private. Don't make them public. It will look bad on you. And our first commandment, Now, another thing that people ask me a lot in private, which is, should I take this job or that job? What do you think? I'm looking to achieve this role. I'm looking to, become a reverse engineer or a vulnerability researcher, etc. What should I take? So there's something very important, which is job security versus job satisfaction. I used to work at a company. I'm not going to name names, okay? But it was a big international company. And I used to work, I'm going to say, 2 hours a day, max. But I needed to be there 8 hours a day. And the reality is not that I did not want to work. There was no work, okay? What I noticed around me is that this place had a lot of zombies. A lot of people who just came in for the job. They worked that half an hour or 2 hours a day, and then they just spend the day literally watching cat videos, right? Why? Well, because this job paid pretty well. So it pays pretty well. You don't need a lot of hard work. It is kind of easy to get stuck in this job, not challenge yourself. But the problem is you're just looking for, you're basically just dying inside, okay? Of course, the smarter people, they use this extra time to better themselves. One of the guys that worked with me, he was learning how to day trade stocks. And unlike most day traders, he actually makes money, and he became very good at it, right? The others were just watching YouTube. And I'm not just saying like older guys. There were guys also my age. I was like 30, 20-something at a time. And, they're basically just wasting their lives there. And these kind of jobs, they kind of really suck your life out. And again, people stick to this job because it paid well. But sometimes, you get to a point in your career where you realize, I'm stuck, I hate my job, but the money is so good. If you keep going like this, you're just going to burn yourself, okay? There is an option, if you don't have, of course, if you have financial difficulties, if you have a family to support, you can't really choose. Many times you got to take the one that takes the most money. But if you're young, in your 20s, you don't have a family, you're not married yet or whatever, or you have some money set aside, then maybe you can take the risk of taking a less paying job that is more satisfactory to you. And again, I'm not saying anything. This is something I've done. I took a big pay cut because I started as basically, I was a penetration tester, and I wanted to become a reverse engineer. And I had to take a big pay cut. It took me 5 years to get back to my old salary. I was lucky that I did not have a lot of financial responsibilities and could do it. But it is doable, and I'm not the only example. I know a lot of people who did it. My advice for people who are young without responsibilities, never take the money over the role. Job satisfaction is way more important. If you have the flexibility, use that flexibility, improve your skills, and get the job you love. Another thing, besides the pay cut, you might need to work more hours to learn. Again, when I changed from pen testing to reverse engineering, I had to put in a lot of hours. Luckily, didn't have a lot of responsibilities, so it worked out well. But like this guy here, who became a music producer at 46, it is possible to change careers even if you are older. So if you feel like you're stuck, there's always something you can do. And by the way, in the trainings that I do, the baseband training is a bit hardcore, let's put it this way. And there was a guy in the last training I did who was almost in his 60s. He was a developer, and he was killing it. Right? This guy learned, he was a developer, he decided, no, I want to go into cybersecurity, I want to go in hacking, I want to go in hardcore reverse engineering. He learned by himself, and he was killing it. So again, age is not an excuse if you feel like stuck in your job. A few words about this. There's a lot of people also who say, oh, your job is amazing, you are so lucky to have a job you love. First, I see that as an insult, because okay, maybe I was lucky, but you also work in that direction, right? To have a job you love. You also learn to appreciate your job. But also another common fallacy is that, oh, if you are your own boss, this is awesome, you can do whatever you want. Bull. That's bull. I tell you why. The clients are your bosses, you know? And when you start a company and you have clients as your bosses, they will put a lot of pressure on you, much more than a manager, okay? So what I'm trying to say with this is the grass is not always greener, you know? Before you start a company or decide, no, I want to be my own boss, bear in mind that you will work much longer hours, you will probably make less the first few years, and your life will be more miserable in general in the first few years at least. Then it probably improves. So it's, you know, it's not for everyone, and that's fine. Sometimes it is better to be an employee at a very good job with a boss you love and treats you well than to become your own boss, which, like I said, is bull. So our second commandment, don't pick job satisfaction over money. Another common mistake is, you know, and this I see mostly younger people doing, less experience, is that they kind of, you know, once you gain a little bit of experience, you think, oh, I'm the best hacker, I'm the best reverse engineer, I can pen test everything. You start to look down on people in your company that do the non-technical stuff, you know. I say, oh, this guy doesn't, all he does is sales. What does he, you know, he doesn't know anything. There's a lot of things you can learn from these people. First of all, I don't need to tell you why morally it is wrong to look down on people. Everyone understands that, right? But you are underestimating them. They can teach you a lot of stuff. You know, they really can teach you a lot of stuff. And you learn a lot by being friends with them, you know? And as you learn more skills, which are outside of the IT or cybersecurity sphere, you become more valuable as an employee. So you will also make more money. You will go up in your career, okay? Then, at the other end, the more experienced people, I've seen this mistake also happen very often, which is you're in a company, you know, you're sitting comfortably in your manager job, you know, growing your belly little by little, and then suddenly, like, you hire a new guy, or a new guy comes up, and this guy is amazing. Like, he can do everything. Everything you throw at them, this guy, you know, he just works the whole day, he goes home, he works on it, and everything he does is amazing. And suddenly you feel threatened, you know, oh, there's a rising star, you know, this guy could take my job, this guy could do this, do that, you know, it's a problem. Wrong thinking. And again, I've seen this with my own eyes, you know, at a company another company I worked, there was this lady I was interviewing at the time, and she was maybe the third interviewee that I had that was amazing, and I presented to one of my bosses, and he kept rejecting them until I realized that this guy, he was afraid of these people because they had PhDs, he thought they would take his job. Wrong thinking. You know, you as a manager, in fact, you can take advantage of these people. And when I say take advantage, I don't mean in a bad way, right? It is your job to kind of guide them, mentor them. They work under you, right? So you can basically push them to do what you want, and they rise, and you rise also with them. That's the right way of thinking. You know, that's your job as a manager. So, third commandment, you shall mentor juniors and learn from non-technical people. And silver bullets, this one, I'll make it short. You know, we all been through this. Oh, install this in the endpoint detection and response will stop the hackers, you know. I don't understand how you found a vulnerability. We have been pen tested before. We have encryption. We all know this is ridiculous, right? But what about this? Oh, changing from C++ to Rust will make our code vulnerability free. Now, isn't it the same thing? I'm not saying it will not improve. Of course it will, you know, incremental steps. But again, don't think of it as a silver bullet, right? You know, and I think it's really bad to kind of fanboy over new technologies because it kind of limits your mind, right? It's the same as I was saying in the beginning. If you close your mind to new technologies like AI, you're limiting yourself. But if you also fanboy to a specific technology, you're also limiting yourself. You know, and again, yeah, new tools and technologies keep popping up all the time. our field is in constant flux, right? And as you get more experience, you've seen a lot of technologies come and go. It is okay to be suspicious. That is normal. You know, just keep an open mind. There's many cases where I've looked at a tool specific for my job, and the tool is crap, and then I come back 1 year later, and actually it has become amazing, right? So if I didn't go back and look at it, I would be missing out. Yeah, so our fourth commandment, don't believe in silver bullets, keep an open mind for new tools. Okay, this also is like a personal pet peeve of mine, let's call it that. You know, I've had people tell me, oh, I don't want to do that, I don't like doing this. I mean, you know, it's in a job, sometimes you gotta shove crap, you know? And maybe, you know, I've also seen this happen. You become so good at shoving that crap that people start giving you crap to shove, and you actually start enjoying it, right? And again, a common thing I see is that, oh, I don't like Java, I want to use Python. Okay, but you know, you're testing a Python Java tool. Are you going to rewrite it in Python? And yes, I've seen some crazy people say, yeah, I'll do it. And of course they fail, because they overestimate themselves. And you know, you're reviewing Java vulnerability code. Are you going to skip it? Are you going to say, no, boss, I don't want to do it? Well, your colleague going to do it. And then what? He's going to go over you, right? So we live in a constant technology flux, right? New technologies pop up all the time, you know, like AI. You know, and it's very easy to get attached to a tool. So I've been using Linux for, I think, over 20 years. Still crap at it, as you can see. But I used to really look down on people who use Windows. I thought, hackers who use Windows, I thought, these guys are noobs. You know, why are they using Windows? Until I met a guy who, he only uses Windows. And I'm not joking. He uses Notepad for code review. Notepad, I'm not joking. Notepad++, okay, not the Windows Notepad. Not that much. But this guy, he's amazing. He's way better than me. So that was a lesson in humility. So again, don't judge people by their tools. You know, it's okay to have preferences, of course, obviously. But you know, you need to be flexible also with tooling. Adapt new tools. New tools, again, the pace of change is very fast. Adapt new tools as they come. Yeah, so I think I need to speed up a bit, right? Yeah, our fifth commandment, you shall adapt to new technologies and tools that make you a better worker. Okay, this is turning into a rant. I hope you're enjoying it. If not, you know, I think Bruno has some tomatoes you can throw at me. Yeah, hyping vulnerabilities. And again, look, a lot of this stuff that I've been going through, a lot of them are my mistakes, okay? Some are mistakes I've seen other people do, a lot of them are my mistakes, and some of them I still do to this day. So, hyping vulnerabilities. You know, one of the best ways to gain experience in technical cybersecurity is to hunt for vulnerabilities in your spare time, on your company time, whatever. You know, and I have over 160-something CV attributed to my name, but there's a lot of them who are lame, like very lame. And it was kind of okay when I was starting my career, but I'm a bit embarrassed now, you know. And they're all public, I didn't remove them, you can go back and laugh at me. But, you know, what I'm trying to say, if you're trying to build your CV by finding vulnerabilities, you know, be careful about the vulnerabilities that you pick. I would say focus on the juicy stuff. Basically, a lame vulnerability is something that is unexploitable, right? You find something like an integer overflow and say, oh yeah, I published this in this product, you get a CVE, I found an integer overflow. If it's not exploitable, don't bother, right? So either spend your time, go really deep on a target and find a really nice, juicy vulnerability, publish about it, make a big name for you, or there's another thing, which is just go through a product, run through it, find a series of vulnerabilities, chain them, and then make like a very nice presentation out of it. And a good example is Pedro's presentation from yesterday. The vulnerabilities he found are not complex, but put together and chain them make them amazing, right? So it's all about what you do with them, not necessarily the type of vulnerability, right? Yeah, but don't do write-ups on unexploitable issues. This is not a pen test. You know, you're writing a cool hacker advisory. And look, okay, you don't care about fame, you don't care about publishing, that's fine, but think of it as a public CV, okay? Or alternatively, if you don't care about fame or building up your CV, do it for the community. A few years ago, people used to give shout-outs to each other, you know, say, yeah, you know, shout out to hacker X, this guy's amazing, he taught me everything. Now, unfortunately, this is not happening anymore in advisories these days. People don't give credit, even for people who've done the exact same work before. And I have to say, I was myself to blame a few times this, because it just became so uncommon and I stopped doing it. It used to be funny, like there would be actual beefs between researchers, you know, like, oh, I hate this guy because he published the same vulnerability as me. Unfortunately, nothing happens like this anymore. Everything's super sanitized, you know, it's like LinkedIn, it's like dead inside, you know, like, oh, I agree with everything, you know, oh, this is amazing, you know. It's good a little bit of controversy, okay? Just don't make it personal, you know, and remember to give shout outs to people who came before you. This kind of builds the respect in the community. Another thing is good technical posts will be relevant far in the future, and I mean future in computer terms, so we're talking about 10 years. Just make sure you don't use a closed platform like Medium. See a lot of people doing this mistake. Use, you know, obviously I don't need to tell you why it is bad to use a closed platform. Markdown is your friend, right? It's many sites and tools support it. Publish in Markdown instead. Yeah, and here is a problem that I have right now, that we all have, which is, you know, CVE numbers used to be very useful, and they still are. Of course, the CVE numbering system for vulnerabilities is not perfect, far from it. It misses a lot of stuff. But early this year, the Linux kernel became a CNA, a CVE numbering authority, which means they can issue CVE for their own vulnerabilities. And since then, they have flooded the CVE number system with thousands of vulnerabilities. Here we have an example. On the third day, they released 378, 153. So this is a problem because a lot of these issues are not exploitable at all. They're not, you know, null pointer dereference, okay? Maybe it causes a DOS, but it's, I mean, they're basically assigning CVEs to non-issues. And this is a problem because they are kind of removing value from the CVE system, which used to be very useful. Yeah, and this guy is very nice. So that's the guy to blame, unfortunately, which is kind of funny because he used to not like having security vulnerabilities treated differently than normal bugs in the kernel, because he used to say security bugs are just normal bugs, they shouldn't be treated differently. But now he's treating every bug as a security bug. So at least he's coherent in that. Our seventh commandment, you shall not hype vulnerabilities, and that's kind of it. You know, I didn't want to start making up stuff, so let's leave it at just 7, okay? And if you have a problem with that, talk to this guy. I heard this guy is nice person. I mean, I love the guy, don't get me wrong, but you know, he's controversial, to say the least. Yeah, wrap up. AI is coming, it's going to take our jobs. You know, just be flexible, adapt to new tools, be adaptive, be aware of your own biases, you know, of your own limitations. How they shape your mind in your workplace and your life in general. I usually hate quoting cheap quotes. I think that's super lame. I'm going to make an exception now and say, love your job and never work a day in your life. I have no idea who said it, but you know, it's a common quote. And I'll add to that, you know, don't focus on the money, focus on being great at your job, and the money will come eventually as you become more senior. And as a bonus takeaway, Linux CNA is destroying the CVE system, and there's nothing better to replace it. So if you're in a position to think about something to replace it, please, come up with a better system or fix the CVE system. And that's all I have. Thanks for listening to my rant. I hope it wasn't too boring. And yeah, you have my Twitter, YouTube, email, whatever, questions, anything, anytime.